Hello and welcome to Fernbank Science Center's The Sky This Week for March 21st through 27th, 2021. Spring has begun. We have the first quarter moon of the spring, some bright planets visible toward the end of the week if the weather cooperates, and the last of the winter stars hanging around, the bright ones. Sunday the 21st brings the first quarter moon. The moon has moved 1/4 around its orbit, 1/4 of the way around the orbit from when it was a new moon last week. The light is on the right-hand side of the moon as we look at it from here in the northern hemisphere. And with a pair of binoculars or a small telescope, look along the terminator, that line in between the daytime and nighttime sides of the moon. This is where the crater shadows and crater walls are interesting to look at with a good pair of binoculars. Sunday the 21st at 10:40 a.m. is when the moon is actually at its first quarter phase. It's not visible for us in the Atlanta area right at that time. We'll have to wait for it to rise that evening before we notice what it looks like. On the 22nd, starting off the week, early in the evening, 9 p.m., this is where some of the winter stars are left over. Keep an eye on these because in the next 2 months, as Earth moves along our orbit, these really bright stars will not be visible. They'll be disappeared. They'll be on the same part of the sky with the sun, and we won't be able to see them very well at all. Zoom in a little bit and look for where those are. Take a look around. The moon will be a little bit past first quarter on Monday, the 22nd. The planet Mars continues to move along its orbit. It's getting farther from us, so it's not quite so bright as it was a few weeks ago. It's right near the bright star Aldebaran, the eye of Taurus the bull. We've looked at that over the last few weeks. And near the little star cluster, the Pleiades, Matariki to the New Zealanders, group of seeds to some of the South American peoples. Start off with the star Capella. It's part of the constellation of Auriga, or Riga, the charioteer, sort of a pentagram of stars, and 3 little stars that make a triangle. Sometimes these are called the mama goat and the kids, riding on the back of this herdsman. Auriga. Capella is the star, and it points to one of the 2 stars, or can draw a line to one of the 2 stars of the Gemini brothers, Castor, on this side. Continue drawing. From Castor, we can connect up Pollux, the other bright star. Castor and Pollux are the heads of the Gemini brothers. Use your imagination. Here's Castor's head. His body stretches down toward Mars. Down. 1 foot sticks out this way and 1 arm this way. He has his other arm around the shoulder of his brother, Pollux, whose long body, foot, and arm are over on this side. Pollux connects up to the next one, the small dog star, Procyon. So we started with Capella, moved to Castor and Pollux for the Gemini twins, down to Procyon for the little dog, and from Procyon to Sirius and the big dog. Big hunting dog, tail, back legs, throat, little head, who follows along behind Orion. And the next star in our big winter circle is Rigel. At the feet of Orion are down by his left knee. And if we keep going, Aldebaran, that we looked at earlier, the eye of Taurus the bull, we would generally go from Aldebaran straight back up to Capella, but look who's in the way this year. The planet Mars, right along that big almost circle of stars. Now this takes up a huge part of the south part of the sky, like the whole sky, from the horizon to the zenith. If you get a chance to find the moon, that'll help you find the Gemini twins, and you can sort of work your way around like a giant dot-to-dot picture, the constellations, the winter constellations in the sky. That planet Mars that we looked at, There's a new Perseverance rover landed on February 18th in Jezero Crater, and this is the largest of the rovers we've sent, and it has the most wonderful camera system. This is a panoramic view of the crater where it landed, Jezero Crater, and some of the markings when spacecraft lands and there are markings and visible landmarks around, the thousands of people who are studying these images make up nicknames for the different spots just so that they can figure out where they are and say, well, it's that far from crater A to that far to this rock on Mars has been named Oz. It's a Navajo word, the word for Mars actually. And for the first part of the mission, many of the landmarks or nicknames on Mars will be Navajo names. They won't be official until the International Astronomical Union okays them, but for now they're helping us pay attention to where we are and getting around. And that rock Maz, it's a fairly large one. This is a close-up with Perseverance's SuperCam. It's a twin system that has just amazing capabilities and shows that this rock, it's a kind of basaltic rock. It's the kind that's igneous, might have come from a volcano, or it might be that volcanic type stuff, pebbles and things, sort of stuck together. We'll find out more as the days continue and the mission continues. By the end of the week, we have a waxing gibbous moon, larger than it was when it was just a quarter moon, again with all those bright winter stars. By now, the moon has moved along its orbit. It's in a different place in relation to the two Gemini twin stars. And by the 24th, it's moved again and is even farther. If you can find where the moon is, now granted, the moon, by the time it gets to waxing gibbous like this, it's pretty bright. It pretty much washes out most of the stuff that's around it in the sky. So if, for example, you were finding, a few weeks ago when we looked for the constellation of Cancer, the crab, in between Leo, the lion, and the stars of the Gemini twins. Cancer, the crab, is this faint grouping of stars in here. It's going to be really hard to find that group with the moon this bright. But if the weather cooperates and you can get some decent moonlight, do see what other things you can find. Use your binoculars, use a little telescope, or just use your eyes. Early on the morning of March 25th, 6:30 in the morning, some of the biggest planets. If you remember, Jupiter and Saturn were the big planets. They were all in the news last December. They appeared closer together than they had been for a long, long time. Here they are popping out into the early morning sky. Saturn rises about an hour and a half before Jupiter does. So if you're an early person, 5:30 or 5 o'clock, go out and see if you can find Saturn above the eastern horizon. The direction where the sun rises from your observing spot, that's going to be the direction east. And finally, on the 27th at 9:30, the moon is almost full along its orbit. It'll be full on Sunday. So find the almost full moon. This is facing south. So if you put the rising sun spot on your left-hand side and the setting sun spot on your right-hand side, you'll be facing the south. The almost full moon will be shedding all kinds of light, blocking out huge collections of stars, but fun to look at. Thanks very much for listening. Please do check out Fernbank Science Center's website, www.fernbank.edu. Check out our Facebook page for Friday night virtual planetarium programs and Science Saturdays. And thanks again for listening. Have a great week.